last 20 years, was finally rounding a corner, and we were all pretty excited about this year's crop, and we spent a lot of money growing this year's crop, and then just weeks before it was set to be picked, Hurricane Irma puts it all on the ground. So the real losers, the real pain in that is not just the citrus growers, but think of all the thousands of families in our rural communities, places like Immokalee, LaBelle, Wauchula, Zolfo Springs, families who depend on harvesting that fruit, that there's just nothing to harvest. We haven't begun picking yet, and we're now going to be a month to 6 weeks later than normal to pick a crop that'll probably be 2/3 the size that anyone thought it was going to be.
You don't strike me as a doomsayer or somebody who's negative in that regard, but there are a lot of people who said, oh my word, this might wipe out what we do in terms of the citrus industry in Florida. It's not that bad, is it?
I'm not prepared to say that at all. The farmers and ranchers, people who grow anything, whether it's citrus or potatoes in Hastings, they're the toughest people on earth. They're the most resilient people on earth. And farmers, particularly the ones that have a good relationship with their banker, are going to go back in and they're going to replant and put one foot in front of the other and stay after it. Florida citrus is a vital part of Florida's culture, our identity. It's our iconic fruit, and it will continue to be a vibrant part of Florida's economic future. We just got to, get a little help to get some bridge loans and get these folks back on their feet to be able to replant, knowing that there's just not going to be a whole lot to pick this particular year.
So that's specific to the citrus industry, but there are a lot of people in other industries, other walks of life throughout the state of Florida who feel like they need some help after Hurricane Irma. Where do you stand on that? How have we done in terms of offering that relief? What do we still need to do better in the state of Florida?
So Florida agriculture really got the punch in the nose when it comes to Hurricane Irma. Miami fortunately dodged a bullet, dodged a direct hit. Naples dodged a direct hit, but when Irma decided to come up the Keys and come right up the middle of the state, she was hitting Florida agriculture, starting with our lobstermen in the Keys, our commercial fishermen in Everglades City and Chokoloskee, the landscape and nursery business in Homestead that were growing the poinsettias for Christmas that were the size of your pinky at the time that the storm hit, were blown all over the place, all the shade houses blown down. Through the vegetable areas, our vegetable farmers make them, they hit their market window at Thanksgiving and Christmas. There's not going to be many Florida vegetables harvested for Thanksgiving tables in America. And then, of course, the citrus industry. So agriculture in general across all commodities was impacted, right up here to the northeast Florida area where you had potato fields in Hastings and Elkton that were underwater. And so we're hoping that Congress, as part of their overall FEMA assistance and disaster relief that they'll be passing for Texas and Florida and Puerto Rico, will include something that will take into account the $2.5 billion in agricultural losses that Florida farmers and ranchers face.
Yeah, and so you took a trip with Governor Scott to Washington to make that kind of plea, make that kind of pitch, is that right?
We did. We presented in front of the Florida congressional delegation, which are all of our House members, and both of our senators have been very supportive of this effort. Unfortunately, we fell short in terms of getting Florida agriculture included in the most recent round of disaster relief that they passed. We're told that we should be included in any future round, but you know how Washington is. It's a hot, wet mess. I don't have any idea whether they will get around to it or not. They've got a lot of other things they're focused on between now and the end of the year. But I do know that in places like Everglades City and Chokoloskee and Immokalee and LaBelle, communities that are in the heart of peninsular Florida, they're struggling. And unfortunately, as you see with natural disasters like this, often the people who have the least are the ones who lose the most.
They get hurt the most, yeah. Let's talk a little bit about some of the folks who've really been hurt in Puerto Rico. So we've heard a lot about Floridians saying, yeah, we want to help our neighbors over there. But it's not just going and providing some relief there, it's also that they're coming here, and that makes an impact on schools and industry and all sorts of things here in the state of Florida. How are we doing there? It's become kind of a conversation in the state legislature saying, hey, don't spend money executive branch without talking to us first.
Well, I think Governor Scott has done absolutely the right thing in preparing Floridians before, during, and after Hurricanes Irma and Nate, and in welcoming our fellow Americans from Puerto Rico who are joining their family members in Miami and Orlando and Kissimmee and other places to try to get their kids into a new normal. I mean, imagine living on an island that's not going to have power for 6 months, much less open schools. You don't have any faith in the quality of the water. So you can't blame them for wanting to find a safe place for their families in the aftermath of Hurricane Maria. And so Governor Scott's leading a delegation to Puerto Rico of utility executives to help share what we've learned about getting power back on. But I mean, think about it. In Florida, we had a week to prepare for the storm, and we pre-positioned 30,000 linemen to help get our lights back on as quickly as possible. That wasn't an option on an island in the Caribbean. I mean, they're a slow boat away. And even though the Port of Jacksonville is sending a regular boat to Puerto Rico, imagine having to wait on that for bucket trucks and insulators and new wire and food and water. So,
and when that trip takes a week just to get there.
Sure. And we're seeing an outpouring of generosity of Floridians and churches and community groups sending help to the island. And we're also absorbing new community members. Over 1,000 in Orange County, over 600 in Osceola County, over 400 in Miami-Dade County, just students going into the schools. And so it's going both ways. And I think it is in our best interest to welcome them with open arms, just like other states helped us get back on our feet in the aftermath of the storms, and for us to help Puerto Rico get back on its feet, so that there's a reason for people to stay and rebuild Puerto Rico and make it as strong and good as it can possibly be, because it's a beautiful place, and it is part of the United States.
Commissioner Putnam has more than a year left in his term with agriculture, but what then? Well, when we come back, more of our interview from earlier this week, because he's going to talk a little bit about his hopes to be governor. That's next on This Week in Jacksonville.
What if we told you the best internet for your home was also a great value? Introducing Xfinity XFi. Discover how much more you can get out of internet with the speed, coverage, and control you need throughout your home. Call 1-800-949-1010 and get started with Xfinity Internet for just $19.99 a month for 12 months. Xfinity delivers the best in-home Wi-Fi experience to keep everyone rocking online, with speed you can count on for an incredible price. Or upgrade for access to Xfinity Wi-Fi and stay connected with millions of hotspots nationwide. Call 1-800-949-1010 and get started with Xfinity Internet for just $19.99 a month for 12 months with a 30-day risk-free money-back guarantee. Xfinity XFi will change the way you Wi-Fi. You can view all the connected devices in your home and manage Wi-Fi to any device at any time. See for yourself how much value you can get out of internet built to keep up with your family. Call 1-800-949-1010 today.
This is a Hurricane Irma insurance alert. In the coming weeks, crooks and predators will be approaching you hoping to take advantage of you at your most desperate hour. Many will even try to take a portion of your insurance benefits, leaving you with less money to rebuild your life. Please don't let them do it. To learn more, visit hurricanelawyer.com and download a free copy of our Hurricane Bill of Rights. That's hurricanelawyer.com. Morgan & Morgan, for the people.
Hi, I'm John Day. I'm a retired Navy captain, and I've lived here in Burke, Virginia for about the last 15 years with my family. It was the Naval Academy where I first heard about Navy Mutual. There's a lot of decisions that service members have to make. We have a special needs son. My wife was very ill at the time. We needed some counseling and some help. Their mission is dedicated to taking care of its membership. Navy Mutual is just a winner, hands down.
Bank fees are killing me, man. I wish you had a better way to bank.
I do. Community First. Great rates, great app, and free checking.
Well, ever wish we hadn't made that bet?
Wishing for a new car? Community First lets you delay your first payment up to 90 days and has some of the lowest rates around. Learn more at communityfirstfl.org. Love where you bank.
While you dwell within it, you are ever happy there.
Daddy, it's Christmas!
Childhood's joyland,
Never let go of your dreams.
The Mercedes-Benz winter event is back. Mercedes-Benz, the best or nothing.
We're kicking it in.
Putting her life on the line every day as a bail bonds agent.
How do you wrestle with the dangers of the job as a mother?
I call my kids, I tell them that I love them.
This local mom tracks down fugitives and brings them to justice.
I want you to see my face and know that I am coming to get you.
Take them now. She captured one of Jacksonville's most wanted. The emotional reason she risks it all. Lady Justice, Monday starting at 5 on News 4 Jax. You're watching This Week in Jacksonville with Kent Justice.
Let's transition just a little bit. You're running for governor. That election is coming around about a year from now. One of the things that you've mentioned is really important to you. It concerns jobs, which was a big deal for Governor Scott, of course. Higher education as well. How do you blend these things? Because I'm a parent who says, set the bar high for every student. You should go to college. College doesn't always work for every student, though, right?
Well, I believe in setting the bar high as well. I mean, I want our kids to have the tools to compete in this economy and win. But let's look at where the jobs are. The #1 job vacancy in Florida every month for 7 years has been in nursing. The #3 or #4 job vacancy in Florida every month for 7 years has been truck drivers and heavy equipment operators. Let's go back to your previous question about the hurricanes.
Yeah.
Have you ever been happier in your life to see anyone than when the lineman shows up in your neighborhood to reconnect your air conditioning after 5 or 6 or 8 days without it? Right. And those guys are going to have a good Christmas. I mean, they're going to have new bass boats and new four-wheelers. Those are good paying jobs, and they're having a hard time recruiting new people to that profession. When you think about the jobs around Jacksport, when you think about the jobs in manufacturing. So I want to put career, technical, vocational education back into our schools. It's been eroded over the last generation. I believe that if students knew what they could earn in all of those professions, in healthcare, in aviation and aerospace, in marine manufacturing, in the construction trades, they would be less likely to take out a $70,000 student loan debt for a degree they don't want and perhaps can't use. We need university-bound students, and we need to rebuild the middle class with real jobs that build things and grow things and create things and manufacture things to have a balanced economy so that we're not as dependent on tourism, home building, and agriculture as a state. We need all of those things, and that's as important for a kid growing up on the north side of Jacksonville as it is for a kid growing up in Callahan. It is about rural economic development and inner city development all across Florida for us to have these career and technical school opportunities and change the stigma that if you don't go take out that student loan debt and you don't go get a university degree that somehow you're a failure in life. That's just not true. And the wages, the salaries that those jobs pay are frankly more than what the algebra teacher's making who might be driving some of those kids crazy.
Yeah. Probably, unless they really love algebra.
And it can't be outsourced, you know? I mean, India and China can't come fix your air conditioner on Saturday, and they don't have a robot to do that yet. Yeah. So these are good jobs.
So let me ask maybe final question here. You were this past week in Fleming Island to do what's called an Up and Atom breakfast. What is that about other than a play on your first name there, sir?
Well, it's a grassroots event. I believe that politics is all about grassroots, and you can't be a good leader if you're not a good listener. And so going into barbecue joints and coffee shops and diners gives me an opportunity to both share my vision for where I want to take Florida, beginning with putting career and technical education back into our schools, and listen and learn about the differences between what Jacksonville needs and what Hialeah needs and what Defuniak Springs or Bartow needs. Because Florida's a big state, it's a diverse state, and while we have a lot of commonalities about what we want for our kids and what we want for future generations, we also have unique problems that require a nuance to solve Northeast Florida's problems in a little bit different way than we would solve the Tampa Bay area's problems. And so this grassroots is what I believe people want their politics to be. It's what our politics should be, and it's what our politics will be if I'm governor.
Just ahead, we're going to change topics here. We're going to talk about the need for relief from hurricanes and other disasters. A local expert who lectures across the world, he's talking about the grief stirred by violence or tragedies that don't impact us directly, but we feel it. We're going to explore that next on This Week in Jacksonville. Stay with us.
I do. I love the patty melt. I guess when that craving hits you, you gotta have it. It's like a blending of different flavors. It's creamy, spicy, with meat, cheese. I don't think anything tops the patty melt. I gotta have it.
How is affordable dentures and implants so much less expensive?
It's all they do, so they're amazing.
But who has time for all that?
Everybody. They made these while we waited. Took one day.
They'll treat me okay?
Like family.
I can't believe I'm doing this. We should have done it years ago.
For affordable dentures, implants, and extractions, call 1-800-DENTURE today. One call and one day can change your tomorrow.
When you've been in an accident, there's going to be a lot to deal with, and we will help you through that whole process. But in the end, our goal is to give you the financial breathing room to be able to make decisions that's best for you without feeling rushed, that you don't have to make those decisions under stress and under pressure. Let us do all the work to get you the money that you deserve. That's what we do for our clients. That's what we can do for you.
Harrell and Harrell. Don't settle for less than you deserve.
Get ready to up your game with the latest clubs, apparel, shoes, and more. Get ready to improve your play with custom fittings. Get ready for your best performance with expert advice and lessons from our certified teaching pros. Get ready because the biggest golf store Jacksonville has ever seen is now open. Come shop like a pro at the new PGA Tour Superstore.
When you're in control of your finances, I just feel like you're in control of your future. Our Regions banker, Stacy, has great advice for the business and our personal finances.
You walk in, they treat you right. It makes you just want to keep going back. We're ready to take our next step.
Want to feel luxurious hand cream?
Luxurious hand cream? My hands get so dry and cracked from constant washing, I need serious relief. That's why I use O'Keeffe's Working Hands, the #1 selling hand cream for guaranteed relief of dry, cracked hands. Thanks to O'Keeffe's, I got my hands back.
3 ways to prevent yourself from getting burnt out at work. Monday at 6:20.
Thanks for staying with us. We're joined in this segment by Jim Monahan. He's most recently the Vice President, Marketing and Communications for Community Hospice and Palliative Care. Also a worldwide authority on grief and bereavement, so really appreciate it. Thank you for coming. I'll let all of you know that we really started brainstorming about this following the massacre that happened in Las Vegas. And now we've got hurricanes. And then this week, another violent incident here, this terror attack in Manhattan. And so it kind of brings it up, Jim, just bluntly, the world is not a safe place.
Not at all, not at all. And you're right, Kent. I've been working with grief and loss for quite a while, but the thinking about the mass tragedies really came to a head right after the Las Vegas shootings. I was sitting in the office at the hospice talking with a friend and colleague, and she said, you know, I have what's expected: shock, anger, sadness about the people who were killed in Las Vegas and their families, but I have this horrible pain in my stomach. She says, I don't know if it's related or not, but it's just strange and it won't go away. So as we sat there and spoke, she said, you know, I'm thinking more about Hurricane Katrina.
Yeah.
I was there, my family was there, we lost just about everything. And as we spoke, that was coming up, the thoughts, the memories, the feelings. So we really began to see that it's probably happened to a lot of people.
Yeah, and what you're saying, that colleague said, once you dove in a little bit, it was triggered by that violence we saw,
right.
That horrific scene, the gunshots raining down on the people in Las Vegas.
Right, right, and it was not directly related to Katrina or any other tragedy, but bringing up what we in the grief world called unresolved grief. If we've had a loss in our life, we're going to grieve it, and it always stays in there. You know, we might think of if our dad died, we might think on his birthday every year or Father's Day, get a little sentimental or very sad.
Yeah. You said you had a little bit of a personal connection with Las Vegas, right?
Right.
Manhattan as well?
Both, yes. My mother-in-law, who died a number of years ago, who I love very much, lived in Las Vegas, and my wife and I went there a lot. So Las Vegas hit me a little bit more than it might a person who never went there. I grew up in New York City. I worked not in finance, but in Wall Street. And my sister was working at a company on 9/11 on Wall Street.
And we're seeing video here of what happened just this last Monday in Manhattan there. And you know, I think what you're saying is when we've got some sort of connection there, it kind of intensifies the reaction, makes it more emotional, more visceral for us.
Right, it could be me, or it's a place that I know and love, or people that I know and love could be there. Right. And really the opposite happens too. If it's in a place like I would never visit, I would never go there, we do some mind, it's healthy to distance ourselves from the pain. It's kind of like if we hear somebody died of a cancer, a lung cancer, we might say, did he smoke? Yes, and we think, well, I never smoked, I'm safe. So psychologically, we do these things just to distance from the pain. So if it's a nightclub shooting, I might say, I don't go to nightclubs, I'm safe.
But if it's a nightclub shooting in Orlando and my daughter goes to school in Orlando or whatever the case might be. I've been in Orlando because I took the kids to Disneyland. I think I understand what you're saying. So this conversation you had with your colleague, what came out of that? A personal understanding for her maybe, but is there something you would share with the rest of us on how we should or could deal with these sorts of things?
I'm going to sound like a real counselor here, but I think to sit down with somebody who will let us talk about what we're thinking and what we're feeling, without trying to change our mind or change our thinking. And we might discover the reasons we're having such a strong reaction to this and not another tragedy. I think the big realization is that what's called our assumptive world has changed. Our assumptive world is the world as we know it. We don't even think about it. We just make assumptions that it's a fairly safe place. We have some impact. We have some things we can do in the world.
So, Jim, my story assignment the day that the shooting happened, or the attack, and not a shooting, but the guy with the guns in Manhattan happened. I spoke with someone who had been in law enforcement for a long time, and he said, when it comes down to it, it's an attack on our way of life. And really the thing is, it's that these terror groups, these terrorists, these actions, want to hit us in our complacency. So I hear that phrase complacency, I think, well, that means that we trust that things are going to be okay. And that comes back to how I started. The world is a dangerous place.
It is a dangerous place, and probably more than we know it is, because we have good law enforcement protecting us, good first responders right there for us. I remember I went to London in the mid-'80s, and I was in the underground there, and there were signs, if you see a problem, call us. And I had to ask what that was, and it was about bombs that could have been left there. And I was living in New York City then, and that was such a strange idea, but it's not so much now. Our world has changed. It's not a safe place. You know, I was talking to a friend, we were sitting at a hotel in a banquet, and he looked up at this chandelier and said, you know, if this chandelier fell, we would probably be hurt. From that moment on, every time we went into a room with a chandelier, we'd be walking a different way. I think that's a metaphor for how we're living our life now. We're walking a different way. What we believed, didn't even think about happening, has happened.
Jim, we've got just a couple minutes left here in the show, but I did want to hear more from you about community hospice and palliative care. I bet a lot of people don't understand what palliative care is.
No, you're very right. Palliative care is aggressively treating symptoms of a disease, or symptoms in general. It's the physical, emotional, social, spiritual treatment of symptoms. It's not cure. And there comes a time in many illnesses that people won't be cured. So we can provide that. And it's not necessarily for terminally ill people. That would be hospice palliative care. Community hospice has been around for over 30 years. It's a very large, not-for-profit hospice, very well established. We're doing many things. One of the things we're doing on November the 18th is having a seminar on the Las Vegas and now other tragedies and our response to it and what we can do.
What's that look like? Is that you presenting to some
I will be
people?
presenting with some of our social workers or chaplains will be there, talking about this, going into a lot more depth than we are, things that we can do, how we can think about it, how we can help others, really a fairly deep explanation of grief. Because I think to help with grief, we need to understand it, we need to express it, we need to have it validated. That'll help us move along in it.
So what's the connection between kind of grief, understanding that, helping people with that, and community hospice? I think I can draw the connection.
Good question. Community Hospice has the Nevisor Institute, an educational institute that we offer in services, training, education for the public on issues related to grief and loss, end-of-life care, palliative care. And we do a lot. We have a clinical pastoral education program. We have a lot of different trainings. We're not just taking care of sick people and their families, but a whole lot for the community. And this is one of those things.
Yeah, well, and something I understand is that you might be taking care of that one person who's at end of life or what have you. but the people surrounding that person need the kind of help that you can provide there as well.
And that's one thing that makes hospice different than other healthcare organizations. We see the whole family as the focus of our care. And for a year after the death, after the loss, we're there for the family, actively providing support.
I appreciate that you reached out and that we got this conversation started. Who knew that after Las Vegas so soon we'd have another terror attack? But these things happen. The hurricanes have happened. People need some insights on how to deal with the emotional stuff that happens in the wake of these tragedies. Jim Monahan, appreciate your time this morning.
Thank you for bringing this out.
All right. Well, This Week in Jacksonville airs each Sunday morning at this time. Next week, we are focusing on the heroes among us and from our area. Our salute to veterans during the Week of Valor leading up to Veterans Day. I'm Kent Justice. Thanks for watching on air on Channel 4, and you can always watch online at news4jax.com.
Now, more than ever before, more people get this from News 4 Jax, Jacksonville's #1 source for local news.